The rain was pouring hard that evening. A steady curtain of silver drops tapped against the windows, pooling along the sidewalks. We'd just finished dinner at my sister-in-law's house on the other side of town. And, though we'd planned to leave earlier, conversations stretched on. Time got away from us. By the time we stepped outside, the roads were slick. The air had turned cold. My husband, David, clicked the car door open with the key fob, the familiar chirp of the locks cutting through the sound of the rain. We hadn't taken our SUV this time, opting instead for David's old but trusty sedan. But with 5 of us now needing to return together, seating became a bit of a puzzle. David and I, our teenage daughter, Lindsay, his son from a previous marriage, Ethan, and Ethan's friend, Zach. I told you we should have brought the bigger car, I muttered with a half smile, trying not to complain. David chuckled as he opened the driver's side door. You said this one was fine because it gets better mileage. I didn't think 5 people would be crammed in here, I replied, brushing the rain off my coat. We stood there a moment, evaluating the situation. Lindsay and Zach had already slipped into the back seat, squeezed tight against each other. The front passenger seat was occupied by a bunch of groceries and leftovers from dinner. David had said earlier, "We'll just put them in the front. They'll stay upright that way." And now we were regretting it. "That leaves you and Ethan in the back," David said, glancing over at his tall, lanky son who was doing his best to shield his head from the rain. "There's no space," I said, peering into the car. Lindsay had a bag on her lap. Zach was practically hugging the door. "We can't fit." "I can sit with Ethan on my lap," Lindsay offered with an innocent shrug. "No, honey," I said quickly, my voice firmer than I intended. "That's not safe." Zach laughed nervously. "I can ride in the trunk if you want. I've seen people do it on TikTok." "Absolutely not," David said. "That's illegal. And dangerous." There was a long silence. David looked at me, then at Ethan, who was trying to remain invisible in the shadows of the driveway. "Well," David finally said, "Ethan is tall enough to share the seat safely. Honey, maybe you can. Sit together." I raised an eyebrow. David gave an apologetic shrug. "It's just down the road. 10 minutes, maximum. We can go slow." I hesitated. It felt awkward. Ethan and I had always had a respectful relationship, but we weren't close. Sharing a small space felt unusual, but the rain wasn't letting up, and standing outside was getting colder by the second. "Okay," I said finally, sighing, "but just this once." Ethan looked surprised. "Are you sure? Let's just get home," I said. I slid into the car, trying to balance carefully. Ethan adjusted, making space politely. We managed to sit comfortably without issues. "Sorry," I muttered. "It's okay," he replied, keeping his posture straight. The car started moving, and the ride was every bit as cramped as I'd expected. Each bump in the road made me shift slightly, and I kept apologizing every time I moved. The car was warm inside, the heater humming, and it was in such stark contrast to the cold outside that the windows fogged up almost immediately. David was making conversation with Lindsay and Zach, who were joking about a movie they'd seen. I tried to focus on their voices and avoid how strange the seating arrangement felt. Ethan remained calm, quietly adjusting his posture. "You doing okay?" I asked softly, not wanting the others to hear. He nodded. "Yeah. Just trying to get comfortable." I almost laughed at the honesty in his answer. "Same here." Something about that mutual discomfort. Soft in the moment, the ride stretched on. 10 minutes turned into 15. Then 20, road construction had rerouted traffic, and we found ourselves inching along side streets. David groaned. "Looks like we're going the scenic route." "You mean the haunted house route?" Zach joked. "This road looks like it belongs in a horror movie." Lindsay giggled. "Stop." Now I'm scared. As the others kept chatting, Ethan relaxed a little. I shifted again, and he said, "You don't have to worry about space. It's fine." "Thanks," I said, although my legs were starting to cramp. "I really don't mind," he added. "We'll be fine." There was a kindness in his tone that I hadn't expected. I looked at him, surprised. "Thank you, Ethan." He gave a small nod and looked out the window as if to end the conversation there. But a few seconds later, he said, "I know I've always kept some distance. I guess I didn't want to feel awkward." "You don't have to pretend," I said quietly. "I know blending families isn't easy. I've always wanted you to feel comfortable being yourself." He finally looked at me then, eyes soft and a little tired. "Thanks. That means more than you know." I smiled, feeling a strange warmth, not from the heater, Not from the cramped space, but from the realization that maybe, just maybe, this awkward moment was something we both needed. When we finally pulled into the driveway, the rain had lessened to a soft drizzle. David parked the car and turned around. "Everyone alive back there?" "Barely," Lindsay joked. Zach almost squished me. "I'll survive," I said, standing up slowly, stretching my legs. I looked at Ethan and smiled. "Thanks for being patient," he smiled back. Anytime we all piled out, stretching limbs and laughing at the ridiculousness of the whole ride. David grabbed the groceries from the front, and I took Lindsay's bag as we stepped into the warm, dry house. I felt something had shifted, not in a dramatic, world-changing way, but something small, something real. Later that night, I passed Ethan in the hallway. He had a towel over his shoulder, probably heading to the bathroom. He paused and said, "Hey, thanks for keeping it simple tonight." I laughed. "You're welcome." He grinned, then kept walking. It wasn't the kind of bonding experience you'd ever plan. But sometimes, life doesn't give you choices. It just puts you in unexpected situations and dares you to find connection in the chaos. And that night, crammed into a car in the rain, something changed between us. Stories like this, they live in the quiet moments, the unplanned, the awkward, the real. If you're new here, welcome. You're listening to Light After Dark. This is where we share the stories that don't make it to the highlight reel, but stay with us forever. The moments of unexpected connection, the truths we find in the tension, the light we discover only after walking through the dark. If you believe the most human stories are the complicated ones, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and tap the bell, because what we explore here isn't just about what happened. It's about what it means and what happens next. If this story felt real to you, if it reminded you of a moment where everything felt awkward but ended up meaning something, let me know in the comments. Subscribe to Light After Dark because life's most meaningful connections often start in the most unexpected places. And I'll be here, sharing them with you. Thank you for listening, for finding the light after the dark. Until next time.